Care doesn't end when the discharge paperwork is signed. The most vulnerable moment for any individual transitioning out of a psychiatric facility happens the second the front door closes behind them. Every facility has a written discharge planning policy. Most say the right things: individualized planning, community linkage, and follow-up contact. But these policies frequently disintegrate under the scrutiny of an external surveyor. The failure happens at a specific moment. A surveyor asks to see the documentation, the actual records of 30-day phone calls, the confirmed appointment logs, and the readmission tracking data. The binder goes quiet. Many facilities treat discharge as a singular administrative event, the day someone leaves, rather than a continuous, managed process. This administrative focus is the root of the documentation gap. Post-discharge follow-up is a regulatory requirement. Assessors from CMS, CARF, and JCACO all enforce a unified, overlapping standard for post-discharge oversight. This diagram isolates the common thread. Whether you are looking at the Illinois Administrative Code or CMS FTAG 660, the mandate is identical. They require documented evidence of linkage, not a list of suggested phone numbers, but confirmed appointments with named providers. Possessing a policy in a manual offers a false sense of security. True compliance requires building an operationalized system that proves exactly what happened after the person left your building. To bridge this compliance gap, facilities deploy the SICG Post-Discharge Outcome Tracking Protocol. The objective is direct: transform reactive, paper-based discharge practices into a proactive, measurable continuum of care. To do this, we have to redraw the facility's timeline of responsibility. We drop the concept of the discharge event entirely. Instead, the timeline extends out, creating a 90-day continuum past the front door. Across this new axis, we construct specific structural pillars. The process starts with a warm handoff, followed by rigorous tracking contacts at days 30, 60, and 90, all feeding directly into the facility's quality assurance data. A defensible discharge is a structural architecture that extends 3 months past the front door. Before you can track post-discharge outcomes, you have to ensure the discharge itself meets a strict baseline. We call this the warm handoff. There is a critical distinction between a compliant transition and a premature one. Handing a resident a printed list of community resources and unverified referrals does not meet the standard. A compliant transition requires 5 explicitly confirmed elements. The first element is a community mental health provider. This requires a scheduled appointment at a specific location and date, plus documentation that the consumer was introduced to the provider while still in residence. Second, the primary care physician. This means a scheduled appointment within 14 days of discharge, supported by a physical medication supply sufficient to bridge the gap until that visit. Third, secured housing with a specific, verified address, not just a plan to look into options. Fourth, a documented current status of their SSI or SSDI benefits, complete with clear next action dates. Finally, a current crisis safety plan. The consumer must have a physical copy in their possession containing all critical community and personal contacts. The operational rule here is absolute. If even one of these 5 elements is unconfirmed at the time of departure, the discharge is premature. When a discharge must proceed prematurely, the case manager must explicitly document the specific gap, the clinical reason for proceeding anyway, and the actionable plan to resolve the missing element post-discharge. The warm handoff is the clinical foundation. Attempting to track outcomes on an unverified referral doesn't just create bad data, it guarantees a failed transition. Once the foundation is set, the protocol shifts to the first major post-discharge milestone, day 30. The 30-day contact functions as an active early detection system for community tenure instability.
The method requires strict adherence. The coordinator must attempt contact. If the consumer is unreachable, the protocol mandates exactly 3 attempts on different days. If all 3 fail, the system branches off and triggers a formal request to the community provider for a welfare check. When contact is made, the coordinator assesses specific domains. Did they attend their appointments? Are they taking prescribed medications? Is their housing stable? Are there unmet basic needs? certain responses serve as strict escalation triggers, indicating a failing transition. These include a recent hospitalization, a loss of housing, or a discontinuation of medications. If a trigger is identified, the timeline compresses. The supervisor must be notified within 24 hours to mobilize an intervention. The 30-day protocol is engineered to catch these specific destabilization markers and interrupt a readmission cascade before it results in a systemic failure. Assuming 30-day stability is achieved, the protocol timeline advances to the 60-day mark. Here, the clinical focus shifts. We move away from immediate stability checks and begin evaluating the consumer's long-term integration trajectory. The 60-day assessment domains target community engagement. Is the individual participating in structured programming? Are they connecting with peer support or vocational activities? This contact also serves as an accountability check, ensuring that any specific concerns or unmet needs flagged at the 30-day mark have been reviewed and actively remediated. Finally, the continuum culminates at the 90-day contact. This call serves as the final outcome evaluation. It captures the consumer's self-reported quality of life, their overall satisfaction with community living, and whether they felt adequately prepared by the facility. This contact translates qualitative answers into a definitive data point. The final outcome is categorized into one of three statuses for the facility's records: sustained, at risk, or failed. Categorizing community tenure at day 90 strips away assumptions. It forces a facility to look objectively at whether their internal interventions actually hold up in the real world. The value of follow-up calls is lost if the data remains siloed in individual clinical binders. 30, 60, and 90-day notes must flow from individual files into the centralized QAPI dashboard. Here, you monitor clinical targets, like maintaining an 80, without translating individual clinical notes into aggregate QAPI metrics. Facility leadership is operating blindly regarding their true discharge efficacy. Transition protocols typically fail due to a lack of structural ownership once a resident is discharged. The case manager moves to the next admission, and the calls simply don't happen. To prevent this, the protocol introduces a mandatory operational requirement: designate a specific post-discharge coordinator who is wholly accountable for every follow-up contact and every data entry. This role is hardwired into supervision. Completion rates are reviewed weekly. Missed contacts require documented reasons, just like any clinical standard. This creates a continuous executive feedback loop. When a metric drops on the QAPI dashboard, it triggers an immediate red alert. That alert initiates a root cause analysis, which feeds directly back to executive leadership to generate targeted corrective action. To operationalize this entire workflow, facilities utilize the SICG Transition Infrastructure Suite. These 4 tools are explicitly designed to capture the data and drive the exact accountability this protocol demands. Sustained regulatory compliance and reduced readmissions are the direct results of an accountable, measurable infrastructure.